Hello and welcome to another episode of Steven's Forge. As you can see, join me out in the barn today with the SLK. And that's because we're going to have a little bit of a chat today about storing cars through winter. And I'll come on to what I mean about when I store a car for winter. It's not strictly storing it, but we'll come on to that in a minute. I'm out in the barn today, which is slowly getting tidied up. I'm going to be painting all the wall, giving it a bit of a clean up. Just taking a little bit of time. I've got various other stuff going on at the moment, so slowly getting there, slowly getting done, slowly chucking things away that we don't need, and just getting a bit of space first of all before I start sort of painting the walls all up. So that'll be quite an exciting little project. Looking forward to it. It'll be probably a couple of months to do it though. So the first point I should make is how I actually use these cars during the winter. Everyone has different points of view on this. However, I'm just telling you what I do and how I use these cars during winter. It's slightly different to how I use them during summer and the nicer weather. So I won't put these cars on SORN, which is statutory off-road notification here in the UK. It's basically mean the car's not taxed, so you can't legally use the car. You obviously can't drive an untaxed car on UK roads, it's illegal. So I will keep these cars taxed, insured, everything I need to keep them legally on the road. Obviously the MOTs aren't due till next year. I think the first one is the SL, which is due March, which is your last MOT before it becomes tax exempt and MOT exempt, but we'll come on to that another day. So I can use these cars 365 days of the year. Now, obviously, that's not really the idea of these cars. I sort of want to keep the mileage a bit lower, which is why I have my daily driver B class, and that's out. That can be out any day, not with the snow on the ground, with ice on the ground, or it's also been out when it's been 40 degrees. So it's it's out in all weathers. And I'm not really bothered about that car going out in all weathers. These, being a little bit older, will come on some of the issues that you might face with them. But I basically can jump into these two cars and take them out whenever I want to. Essentially, that's the first point. Obviously, I'm not going to car shows. I'm not going to be just going out for a drive like I do in the summer. So that in itself presents a few issues, because I do take these cars mainly out for a drive just to keep them running. And again, we'll come on to those sort of issues and the things that you face just in a moment. So the first issue that you might face when you're putting your car away for winter or not using them quite as much during winter, I don't know whether how much truth there is to this, but people have said that modern fuels will start to go off after 6 months, and that's not really an issue, because I only will ever not use these cars for November, December, January, February. That's 4 months. You should be fine. However, I do combat that a little bit, because I won't leave these cars absolutely brimmed to the top. I won't leave a full tank in these cars. I think both of them are probably about half a tankish at the moment, so I won't put a full tank in, because I know I'm not using them much. Obviously, if I know I'm going to do a big day out and a big drive, I will top them up before I do that drive, and I'll come back then. I won't really be that bothered about topping back up again if there's like a third of a tank in there. So that's my sort of way of combating that little myth. I don't know if it's a myth or fact, I'm not too sure, but that's how I'll sort of combat it. Obviously, the second issue, if you leave your car for more than sort of 2 or 3 weeks without starting it, you instantly have problems with the battery. Now, batteries will go after about 2 to 3 weeks, possibly, depends on your batteries. No, sort of that's it. After 2 weeks, your battery's flat. I think the longest I let this car sit, which was my own fault when we had some boarding work done, it was sort of hard to get to, hard to get out. I should have gone and started it, and I didn't, which was completely my own fault. I left about 3 weeks and the car wouldn't start. Now, central locking worked, but you put the key in and it wouldn't start. So what I have invested in is about £70, £80. I've gone for a battery charger, an all-in-one sort of tester charger. It just trickle charging as well. So if I know that I've left the car for a couple of weeks, I will probably actually stick the charger onto the battery just to give it a little bit of a boost, and then maybe start it up, let it run for 10-15 minutes. However, you don't have to go and buy a battery charger or trickle charger or whatever. One of the things that I've done from previous years is that I've actually started the cars up usually every 10 to 14 days, and that normally does the trick. Even running for about 10-15 minutes, that normally does the trick. Now, the other thing that I would also recommend is actually taking the cars out for a drive. However, I have been in a situation before when it's actually been snowing. You've had a week when it's been really bad weather before I haven't taken it out, and then it suddenly snowed and the snow's on the ground, and I don't really want to take these, which are both rear-wheel drive cars, out in the snow, because that's going to be trouble. Now, I will try and take them out if possible. However, that's not always possible, so the next best alternative is just to give them a little bit of a startup. And when you take them out for a drive, you don't have to take them that far. I go along to the next village, I turn around, do a little loop around the village, and I come back again. I'm out for maybe about 15-20 minutes, if that. And that's just enough to keep them moving, keep all the parts going, and also helps keep the battery charged a little bit as well. Feeding into this, cars don't like to be stood. They generally, when they stand still, and you've probably seen it's more for if a car's been there for 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, you not only have issues with the battery obviously being completely dead, you'll have other issues such as fuel lines and all this, and brakes sticking on, all that. So cars generally like to be used, which again is why I try and take them out if possible during winter and just give them a little bit of a run. As I say, this is the next village along and back again. The other thing as well you've got to bear in mind is I've heard of people struggling with flat spots on tyres. Now I think this is probably if you leave cars really long term, maybe for a year or two, so it shouldn't affect you during winter storage. However, I am quite lucky to have a little bit of space in here, so I can just, if I'm starting the car, just moving forward sort of half a foot maybe, just to stop the weight of the car being placed on the tyre at the bottom and just moving around a little bit. That's what I generally tend to do from starting them up, just moving forward. That sort of eliminates that issue. Now here in the UK, we do put salt on the roads. Now, obviously this creates a bit of an issue because cars, particularly older cars like these pair, don't generally like salt. They will get into every nooks and crannies and they'll start rusting. Things like exhaust as well as components. Obviously not just the bodywork. You might initially think it's just the bodywork it might affect, but actually it's quite a whole load of things that it will affect. So if I am going to take cars out for a drive, I also make sure that the roads are relatively dry. And if you see a few sort of nice days where the temperature's sort of getting up to something you consider to be slightly warm for winter, I also think about, I might go and actually spend an hour just taking these cars out, starting them up, just taking them out, just even the next village along, or possibly going out to a slightly bigger drive in them. And again, it just does them some good to get out. So by going out when it's dry, you just sort of minimise the chance and the risk of salt actually getting into the components and getting onto the bodywork. If you do go out and it is a little bit wet, I'd always recommend washing the car before you put it away. And we'll talk about how to put it away in a little bit. And obviously this then creates its own problem in itself, because obviously when you wash your car, particularly with the brakes, you find sometimes if it's not quite dried, the brakes get a little bit sticky and you take the handbrake off and I'm sure we've all been there. The car doesn't really move when it's got wet and the brakes are a bit sort of locked on a little bit. And it takes a little bit of effort to get them moving. So when you do store a car, you're okay with these ones because these are automatic, so they will sort of hold its place. And as well, where I store it's on the flat as well. Obviously, you can't always do that and leave the handbrake off. It's a manual, or if you park your cars on a hill. So it really is up to your own situation really, and where you store your cars on that one. Now, I'm extremely lucky because I get to use this barn to store these cars in, which is an absolute blessing, because not only does it mean that they're always nice and clean, they're kept nice and dry during the winter, I also can work on them as well, and it's a fairly horrible, grim day today, and there's that very fine, drizzly, misty stuff in the air. So I can actually come today, and I've taken the cover off, and it's not going to get wet at all, so actually I can come out and do a bit of filming and have a chat with you guys. Now, obviously, not everybody has a garage like this. I know I'm very, very lucky to have so. And one of the other things that I have done in the past, I haven't always had this barn, as you'll probably know from looking past the previous videos. Particularly when I bought this car, I was often outside I think I was outside -2, -3, trying to solve the issue with the battery the one day. Not very fun, I must admit. But that's life sometimes, you have to. It was a nice dry day. I had to get out there and start sorting the car out. One of the other things that I have done is obviously use the cover. Now, covers are really good, and I do actually like them. I know not everybody does. I think there's certain ways to use them, I think, and I know they're not the most ideal solution. I would always say try and get a decent cover, not necessarily buy the cheapest one you can find. I would say go out and buy a decent one, proper outdoor cover, a breathable one as well. I also invested in a couple of the little yellow pads that you can get for the demister pads, and just put them inside as well. And I do find that helps with the condensation. It sometimes can get built up in cars during winter if you're not using them every day. And all I would do is when I came out to start the car, I would just take those pads in and stick them on the way there for about half an hour, and that would just dry them out. Now, obviously, with covers, you do run the risk of scratching the cars and dirt getting in them. So if you do take the car out, and particularly during the winter, and I do it all the time anyway, and you put a cover on them, I'd obviously recommend just giving it a quick wipe over, a quick wash, or even just a quick wipe over with the waterless wash. Just to again, it depends how dirty it is really. If it's got quite dirty, I'd always give it a wash. I then would also give it a quick little wipe over. It had not so dirty, particularly during summer. Quick wipe over, and then you eliminating that risk of any dirt, any grime in the bodywork getting caught in the cover and damaging your paint. Now, obviously, I'm quite lucky that I have this lovely area to use, and I also have two cars that I don't have to daily drive, and I've got a separate daily drive to go out in the winter and get absolutely filthy and covered in salt and all that sort of stuff. So today I just really wanted to talk about how I store these cars. Hopefully you might be able to take something away. I'd love to hear how you guys store your cars, if there's anything different you do, if there's any other issues maybe that you face that I haven't thought of in today's video. So thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.